The alien fleet hovered in the darkness of space, their weapons charged and shields raised. Admiral Xiron stood on the bridge of his massive battleship, watching the holographic map. His officers were tense, their eyes locked on a blinking red dot moving toward their position. It was a human warship. Just one. But something about it felt wrong. It had appeared out of nowhere, breaking through their deep space scanners like a ghost emerging from the void. No hyperspace trails. No distress signals. Just silence. "Commander, confirm the ship's identity," Xiron ordered, his voice steady but firm. The officer hesitated before responding. "Sir, the ship does not match any known human models. It's different." Xiron frowned. Humans had powerful warships, but never before had they sent just one against an entire fleet. This had to be a trick. Lock weapons. Destroy it immediately. The fleet responded instantly, energy cannons charging as they prepared to unleash their full firepower on the lone warship. But then, it vanished. Gasps filled the control room. The blinking red dot on the screen was gone. The officers frantically scanned the area, searching for any sign of the ship. It was right there. One of them shouted, "We had a clear lock." But the warship had disappeared, as if it had never been there. Xiron's hands clenched into fists. He had fought humans before. They were dangerous, unpredictable, and reckless, but never had they used something like this. He turned toward his science officer. "Find it. Now." The crew worked furiously, scanning every frequency, checking every possible signal. Then, suddenly, the alarms blared. The ship was back right behind them. Without hesitation, Xiron shouted, "FIRE!" Bright blue energy beams erupted from the alien battleships, streaking through space toward the human vessel. But as the blasts reached their target, something impossible happened. The warship flickered, like a glitch in a hologram, and the energy beams passed right through it. No damage. No impact. Nothing. It was as if the ship wasn't even real. Panic spread through the crew. "Impossible!" one officer cried. "It's an illusion." But before anyone could react, the warship moved. It was fast, too fast. It weaved between the alien ships like a shadow, disappearing and reappearing at will. Every time they tried to lock onto it, it would vanish again, only to reappear somewhere else, always closer than before. Xiron's mind raced. This wasn't a normal ship. This was something different, something beyond their understanding. "Full retreat," he ordered, but it was too late. The lights inside the battleship flickered. Control panels sparked. Screens glitched with static. The ghost warship had done something to their systems. "We're losing control," the engineer screamed. Xiron's eyes widened as he realized the horrible truth. This wasn't just an advanced warship. It was something worse. It had hacked into their fleet. A deep, distorted voice echoed through every speaker. "Your war is over." Then, the ghost warship unleashed its true power. A single pulse of dark energy erupted from its hull, spreading like a silent wave. One by one, the alien battleships powered down. Engines died. Weapons stopped working. Even life support systems failed. Xiron gasped for breath as the air in the control room grew thin. He watched, helpless, as the ghost warship moved through the lifeless battlefield, untouched, unstoppable. The last thing he saw before the darkness consumed him was the warship's glowing red eyes, like a demon drifting through the void, hunting its next prey. And then, just like that, it was gone. The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the cold metallic glow of the Zenthar Empire's warfleet. Hundreds of battleships stood ready, their massive cannons aimed forward, their shields at full power. Inside the command bridge of the Zenthar flagship, Supreme Commander Vorthok leaned back in his throne-like seat, his sharp reptilian eyes locked onto the holographic display in front of him. A single human warship was approaching alone, without an escort, without backup. It made no attempt to hide, no effort to communicate. It simply moved forward, slow and steady, toward toward the heart of the Zenther Armada. A smirk curled across Vortic's face. Is this some kind of joke? He scoffed. The humans had been losing the war for months. They were desperate, but sending one warship against an entire fleet? It was suicide. Commander, should we open fire? One of the officers asked, his claws hovering over the weapons control panel. Vorthok waved a hand dismissively. No need. Let them come closer. Let them see the full might of the Zenther Empire before they die. The officer hesitated but obeyed. The human ship kept advancing, undeterred by the overwhelming force in front of it. No hails, no warnings, no defensive maneuvers. Just a silent, steady approach. Something about it felt wrong. Scan the ship, Vorthok ordered. I want to know what we're dealing with. The sensors whirred to life, gathering data, analyzing every inch of the mysterious vessel. After a few moments, the results came in, and the officer's face paled. Sir, this doesn't make sense, he stammered. This warship has no life signs, no energy signatures. It's like it's not even running. Vorthok's smirk faded. Impossible. A dead ship can't move. But before he could demand another scan, the comms channel crackled with static. A deep, distorted voice, cold and emotionless, filled the room. This is your final warning. Every officer froze. The voice seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was calm, steady, yet carried a weight that sent chills down even the most battle-hardened warriors. Vorthok leaned forward, his claws tightening on the armrests. Identify yourself, he barked. But there was no response. Only silence. Then, without warning, the human warship vanished from their screens. Panic spread through the bridge like wildfire. We've lost visual. No heat signatures. It's just gone. Vorthok shot up from his seat, his eyes darting across the screens. Find that ship. NOW. The officers frantically scanned the sector, but there was nothing. No debris, no trace of hyperspace travel. It was as if the ship had never existed. The fleet remained on high alert, weapons primed, shields at maximum. The silence stretched, thick with tension. Then, just as suddenly as it had disappeared, the warship reappeared directly above the Zenther flagship. Before anyone could react, all power inside the ship flickered. Lights dimmed, control panels sparked, alarms blared. We're losing systems. Weapons are offline. Shields are failing. Chaos erupted as officers scrambled to regain control. Vorthok slammed his fist onto the console. Fire everything. Destroy that ship NOW. But nothing responded. The mighty war cannons of the Zenther fleet, powerful enough to obliterate planets, sat dead and useless. Across the fleet, the same thing was happening. One by one, the battleships powered down, leaving them floating helplessly in space. The deep voice returned, this time echoing through every ship in the fleet. You were warned. Vorthok's throat tightened. He had fought countless battles, conquered entire worlds, but never had he felt fear like this. What do you want? He growled, forcing his voice to remain steady. The silence stretched again, heavy and suffocating. Then, the human warship opened fire. But it wasn't a barrage of missiles or energy beams. It was a single pulse, a wave of energy that rippled through the fleet. And in its wake, ships vanished. Not destroyed. Not broken. Simply erased. One by one, the Zenther battleships disappeared as if they had never existed, swallowed by some unknown force beyond comprehension. Crews screamed into the void, their voices cutting off as their ships winked out of reality. The flagship trembled as its hull began to dissolve, pieces of metal drifting away like dust. Vorthok gritted his teeth, rage battling against the cold grip of terror. This isn't possible, he whispered. But it was. The Zenther Empire's greatest fleet, their unstoppable war machine, was being erased from existence. As the final moments approached, Vorthok stood tall, refusing to look away from the ship that had brought his empire to its knees. "Who are you?" he demanded. The voice answered, calm, final. "We are humanity's last warning." And then the flagship was gone. The battlefield fell silent once more. The war was over before it had even begun. The battle was over. The wreckage of human warships floated in the cold emptiness of space, their once mighty hulls shattered, their fires slowly dying in the void. The Excelarian fleet, victorious and untouched, moved through the debris, scanning for any surviving humans. Admiral Croven stood tall on the bridge of his command ship, his golden armor gleaming under the dim light. His reptilian lips curled into a satisfied smirk as he watched the remains of Earth's so-called mighty defense fleet drift like dust. "Pathetic," he muttered. "The humans thought they could challenge us, but they have fallen like insects. Their war is over." His officers nodded in agreement, their glowing yellow eyes filled with triumph. This had been humanity's last stand, and now there was nothing left of them. But then an alarm blared. One of the officers turned sharply, his clawed fingers dancing over the control panel. "Admiral, we have detected an unknown energy signature." Croven frowned. "Impossible. The humans are finished." The officer hesitated, then pointed to the screen. "Sir, it's a human warship." The bridge fell silent. Every officer turned toward the screen, staring in disbelief. There, moving slowly through the wreckage, was a single human warship. Its hull was sleek, undamaged. Its engines glowed with an eerie blue light. But that wasn't possible. They had destroyed every last ship. They had confirmed it. This warship should not exist. "Check again?" Croven barked. "It must be a malfunction." The officers ran multiple scans, but the results remained the same. The ship was real, and it was moving toward them. "Hail them," Croven ordered. The communications officer tried, but there was no response. No signals. No life signs. "It's just there." Croven narrowed his eyes. Something wasn't right. He had fought humans for years, studied their tactics. They never sent a single warship against a full fleet. And they certainly didn't come back from the dead. "Weapons online," he commanded. "Destroy it." The Excelarian fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons roared, sending waves of energy blasts toward the lone ship. The beams struck its hull and passed right through. The bridge erupted into chaos. Direct hit. No damage detected. "It's like it's not real." Croven's claws tightened into a fist. "Cease fire." He stared at the warship, his mind racing. This had to be some kind of trick. A hologram? A projection? But then the ship flickered, and in an instant it was gone. The sensors showed nothing. No trace. No movement. It had vanished. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "Where did it go?" one of them whispered. Before anyone could answer, another alarm blared. "Sir, it's behind us." Croven spun around. The warship was now directly above their flagship. No engines. No visible weapons. Just silently floating, watching them. Croven felt something he had never felt before: fear. "Evasive maneuvers!" he roared. The ship jerked to the side, trying to escape, but it was too late. The human warship released a pulse, a silent, invisible wave of energy. The lights on the Excelarian flagship flickered, then died. Control panels short-circuited, sparks flying as systems shut down. "We've lost power." Weapons are offline. Engines unresponsive. The Excelarian fleet, once an unstoppable force, was now nothing more than helpless metal drifting in space. The warship moved closer. The bridge filled with static. And then a voice. Deep. Cold. Inhuman. "You should not have come here." The words sent a chill through everyone on the ship. Croven gritted his teeth. "Who are you?" The voice did not answer. Instead, the warship's energy signature changed. The scanners detected something terrifying. It was charging a weapon. But not just any weapon. This energy reading was unlike anything recorded before. A force beyond their understanding. A weapon that should not exist. Panic spread through the fleet. "Admiral, we need to retreat. We can't move. We are defenseless." Croven's mind raced. He had always believed in the Accelarian Empire's supremacy, their strength, their invincibility. But now, staring at this impossible warship, he felt like an insect standing before a storm. He turned to his officers, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. "Prepare for impact." The warship fired. There was no explosion, no bright flash, no sound, just nothing. The Accelarian ships began to disappear. One by one, they flickered out of existence, as if they had never been there. Croven's eyes widened as he saw his own hands starting to fade. The last thing he heard before everything went black was the voice, calm and final. "Your war is over." And then, the Accelarian fleet was gone. The human warship remained, floating silently in the void. And just as mysteriously as it had arrived, it vanished. The Zorvax fleet moved through the empty void of space, their warships gleaming under the distant stars. Admiral Verac stood on the bridge of his command ship, his sharp eyes scanning the battlefield ahead. The humans had fled. Their forces were broken, their defenses shattered. Victory was close. The only thing left between the Zorvax fleet and Earth was a single, battered human warship, floating aimlessly in the darkness. Its engines flickered weakly, its hull scorched and broken. Verac let out a low chuckle. "Is this their last defense?" he sneered. "One crippled warship?" His officers laughed in agreement. The humans were fools to leave such a weak vessel behind. "Admiral, should we destroy it?" one of the officers asked, his clawed fingers hovering over the weapons controls. Verac considered it. "No. It's already dead. We move forward. Earth is ours." The fleet advanced, their massive battleships pushing past the lone human vessel. It remained still, lifeless, like a ghost drifting through space. But then something changed. The sensors blared. The officer's eyes widened. "Sir, the human ship, it's charging energy." Verac's amusement vanished. "What?" The human warship, which had seemed on the verge of death, came to life. Its engines roared, its hull glowed with energy, and before anyone could react, it fired a pulse of blue light. The Zorvax fleet shuddered. The pulse wasn't an attack, it was a signal. And suddenly, from the darkness, dozens of human warships emerged. They had been waiting, hidden, unseen. A trap. The decoy had worked. AMB-USH? The bridge exploded with panic. Human ships burst from the void, their weapons already firing. The first Zorvax battleship took a direct hit, its hull splitting apart in a fiery explosion. Another was torn in half before it could even react. Defensive positions. Verac roared. But it was too late. The humans had planned this perfectly. The lone, helpless warship had lured them in, tricking them into lowering their guard. And now, the real battle had begun. Lasers and missiles crisscrossed the battlefield. The Zorvax, caught off guard, struggled to fight back. Verac's mind raced. How did they do this? We scanned the area. There were no ships. The truth hit him like a shockwave. Stealth technology. The humans had developed a way to hide their fleet, to mask their presence until it was too late. And he had walked straight into their trap. "Pull back," he ordered. But the humans weren't letting them go. The lone warship, the decoy, wasn't finished. It turned, its damaged hull revealing hidden weapon compartments. It had been playing dead, waiting for this moment. Bright blue beams erupted from its cannons, striking the nearest Zorvax ship. The massive vessel cracked, then imploded. Verac watched in horror. This wasn't just a trap, it was a slaughter. His fleet tried to fight back, but the humans were everywhere. They moved with precision, striking weak points, cutting off escape routes. The once mighty Zorvax armada was being picked apart. One ship after another fell, their wreckage drifting into the cold abyss. The decoy warship led the charge, moving like a predator among its prey. Vorak's heart pounded. "Send reinforcements," he barked. But there were none. This was supposed to be an easy battle. They had come expecting no resistance. And now they were alone. The command ship trembled as human torpedoes struck its engines. Fire erupted across the bridge. Officers screamed. Systems failed. Sir, we've lost navigation. Weapons are offline." Varric clenched his fists. He had underestimated the humans. And now he was going to pay the price. The decoy warship turned toward them, its weapons charging for a final strike. The admiral stared at the screen, knowing there was nothing left to do. The last thing he heard before the explosion tore through his ship was a transmission from the human commander. "You should have taken us seriously." And then everything went dark. The Zorvak's fleet was gone. The trap had worked. The battle was over. And humanity had won. The Exillar Dominion had crushed every enemy in their path. Their war fleets had burned planets, shattered civilizations, and brought countless species to their knees. Now, only humanity remained. The final resistance. The last obstacle before total galactic domination. Grand Marshal Vorak stood tall on the bridge of his massive warship, the Void Reaper, watching as the Dominion's fleet surrounded Earth's final line of defense. The human ships were smaller, outdated, and outnumbered 100-1. "This will be over soon," Vorak muttered, his voice filled with confidence. The humans had fought well, but their time was up. Victory was inevitable. Then the alarms blared. A new energy signature had appeared. Not from Earth. Not from any known sector. Something was coming. Something fast. "Report!" Vorak snapped. His officers scrambled to analyze the readings. The data made no sense. "Sir, it's a single human warship." Vorak frowned. "One ship? Against our entire fleet?" He almost laughed. But then the officer added, it appeared out of nowhere. No hyperspace trail. No warning. And the energy readings are off the scale. A ripple of unease spread through the bridge. The ship appeared on the view screen. Sleek. Silent. Its hull was blacker than space itself, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. There were no visible weapons, no insignia, no signs of crew. It moved with an unnatural smoothness, cutting through the void like a predator stalking its prey. Vorak's amusement faded. "Hail them," he ordered. The communication officer tried. No response. "Scan it." The results flashed on the screen. The officer's face paled. "Sir, this warship is impossible." Vorak's eyes narrowed. "Explain." The officer hesitated before whispering, "Its material composition. We don't recognize it. It's not standard human technology. It's something else. Something more advanced." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Vorak felt the first stirrings of unease. This wasn't just another desperate human vessel. This was something else. Something unknown. "Destroy it," he ordered. Now. The fleet obeyed. Thousands of plasma cannons locked onto the mysterious warship and unleashed a storm of firepower. The space around the vessel lit up with explosions, but when the smoke cleared, the ship was untouched. Not a single scratch. "Impossible," an officer breathed. The warship moved, faster than anything Vorak had ever seen. It closed the distance in an instant, weaving through the Dominion ships with effortless precision. And then it attacked, but not with lasers, not with missiles. The ship emitted a pulse, an invisible wave that rippled through space. The nearest Dominion battleship vanished. No explosion, no wreckage, just gone, erased from existence. Panic spread like wildfire. "That's not a weapon," someone shouted. "It's something else." One by one, the Dominion's warships flickered out of existence, as if they had never been there. Vorak's mind raced. This was not technology. This was beyond science. This was power. He gritted his teeth. Focus all firepower. All ships engage. The fleet fought back with everything they had. Torpedoes, cannons, experimental weapons. But it was useless. The warship danced through the chaos, untouched, unstoppable. The Dominion's greatest war machines fell, one after another. Then the ship spoke. A voice filled every Dominion ship, deep and emotionless. You should have left humanity alone. Vorok's blood ran cold. He had conquered entire civilizations, witnessed horrors beyond imagination, but never had he felt fear like this. Who are you? He demanded. The voice answered, calm and final. We are the last safeguard. We are humanity's ultimate weapon. The warship unleashed a final wave. Vorok's ship, the Void Reaper, shuddered violently. His officers screamed as the walls around them dissolved into nothingness. The last thing Vorok saw was the warship, watching silently, as if judging their fate. And then the Dominion's fleet was no more. The war was over. Humanity had won. And their enemies had learned the hard way some weapons should never be provoked.